Hey, this is Xavier Dersma, and you're listening to the Lunchtime Catch Up podcast.
Gresham, can he get in on the act? A 55-metre Bombers bomb! Long ball to half forward here for Essendon. There's the future right there.
Welcome back to the Lunchtime Catch Up podcast. The Lunchtime Catch Up podcast is two blokes that have known each other forever, who catch up most days in the Melbourne CBD for lunch to talk everything Essendon Footy Club. My name is Grant, with me is Scott, and joining us tonight for a Essendon Football Club What the Hell's Going On roundtable event is the boys from the Flight Plan podcast. You know those guys. You also know Fiona from Banter from the YouTube channel. Guys, welcome to our chat tonight. Don't all speak at once.
Well, if we talk about priorities, mate, it's time to get rid of that Zach Merritt on-field leader apart from your intro. That's all, I can't get that in my head now.
Oh, controversial.
I know.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to do, I thought there's a bit in that intro, actually, when I think about it.
Don't worry, you'll have plenty of good replacement grabs.
That is true. And I'll also have to, I turned 50 a while back, Scotty was kind enough to get a jumper signed by the whole team and handed to me by my favourite player, Jordan Ridley. So that may or may not need to go into a cupboard very soon.
So look, it's great to have Jasper, Todd from the Flight Plan, and Fiona from Bomber Banter. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, with the Flight Plan, you guys, we've been close for a number of years now. Did the obviously live show with Ritters and Baldwin. That worked out well. It's like
a kiss of death thing going on there.
And then we have pretty much the superstar of the business going around at the moment in Fiona of Bomber Banter. So welcome. Oh, look, I'll go to you, Fiona, first. Welcome to the crew. First of all, how have you found this year for you? Because you just had this little idea to create something for the Bomber community. It took off probably bigger than you probably even expected. But can I just say, on behalf of a lot of Bomber fans, you've done an absolutely brilliant job. So, and I couldn't thank you enough about what you've done to the Bomber community.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. I mean, you, everyone, who's come before me in the podcast space has set a very high bar, and have as you said, I had a little idea, and then kind of everything just fell into place. I kind of just surrendered to the idea and didn't know where it was going. And when I started it, I was quite at peace if it went nowhere, because it was just a place for me to, if nothing at all, just to chat into a void and talk about something I deeply love, which is Essendon Football Club. And to my very, very humbling surprise, it's been incredible. And I have already made some incredible connections, and I know people have connected with each other through the community, which is, at the end of the day, job done. So thank you. I mean, I can only thank you guys for your support along the way and holding me up and picking me up off the ground when I've been having, panics and about what's happening and what's going on. And people keep saying to me, you started it in a very strange year where it wasn't too much to be quite happy about and boasting about on a fan cam post a game, especially 12 losses in a row at the end of the season was particularly difficult to because it's like everyone watching a car crash and then me saying, okay, everyone, let's come back and let's watch the car crash again and talk about the car crash and try and find some positives in the car crash. So but at the end of the day, it was a good reminder for myself and for everybody else that at the very end of the day, it's a sport. We're supposed to be enjoyment, and if we look hard enough, there'll be something to find enjoyment in. And, we can all agree that it was the young kids who did a lot of providing of that.
Yeah, I think you should be pretty happy about the fact you started when you did, because like you can imagine if Essendon turns this sort of stuff around, that you'd be accused of jumping on the bandwagon. So you come in at ground zero and you just, your trajectory will go up because we're at rock bottom right now. So
Absolutely.
the trajectory for you is going straight up.
The dedication is clearly there.
This is true. Yeah, the resilience. Are we not? Are we already resilient as Essendon supporters? Are we not? So I've just decided to test my resilience even more. But no, it's been wonderful, and hopefully some greater, bigger heights next year. So,
And look, the Jasper and Todd, have you found with your show this year? Because, let's face it, it's been one of the toughest years I can remember, and we can say this as a community, as a bit of a podcasting YouTube community. It's really hard to know what to say loss after loss when it's young kids, a lot of injuries, and to try and think of different angles, different ways of approaching things. I found this year to be the hardest. Have you guys found?
Yeah, it's turned a lot to off-field, hasn't it, Scooter? And I guess that's because there's no game plan really to be seen when you're playing guys in different roles for the first time ever in their careers. There's a bunch of teenagers running around trying to find the ball, and unfortunately for us, that's meant a lot of losses. But there's been enough to talk about off-field to keep a podcast going, that's for sure. I mean, the amount of off-field appointments, the amount of change, the amount of injuries, the stuff going on behind the scenes at Bomberland, as usual, is bigger than the actual football performances, unfortunately.
How about you, Todd?
Yeah, well, it's been a challenge, but there's plenty of optimism around here. But I don't know about what you guys all think, but it seems like a bit of a club divided in terms of fans as well. Like, you get so many people when I put something up on Twitter or we see there anything disgusting. Brad Scott's a divisive character. No one's happy with the direction of the footy club. We get too many injuries. I mean, it's just sometimes you just want everyone to take a deep breath and just be like, all right, we're in a bad predicament right now, but this is where clubs make or break themselves. And Brad Scott's been there before, knows what it is to build a premiership, and he's played Essendon in grand finals, so he knows what the club's all about. And yeah, it's just a tough sort of sell when you're trying to talk up the club and the young guys, but people just so adamant they need to talk about Brad Scott and put him down when really he's doing the best he can considering the injury toll. I thought he did a great job. Maybe he wasn't spectacular with game plans here and now. He was slow to react in certain games, but I think in terms of man management, I think he did a really good job under the circumstances.
Look, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's very hard to evaluate this year. And part of my frustration probably I see on social media is the real heavy attacks about our performance this year without, I go, well, and this is just me. Aren't you understanding the context though of 18 guys unavailable? Like, I've seen Brisbane have 5 or 6 injuries and then lose a game that I thought they were going to win. And it was funny when after that loss, I actually was just listening to Lee Matthews, who I really like listening to, and he said, well, the Lions, that's now 5 players out of their grand final team that's unavailable. So if there's 2 or 3 more players that they get unavailable and they have to bring in inexperienced players, then as a coach, you're really hamstrung because you're on how you can coach the system and how you can coach the team. It actually, once you get to that 6 to 8 players, you as a coach, it really affects how you can coach. And we're talking 18 14 to 18 players really in the last 13, 14 rounds. So I don't know about you, but I found just this year, like I can cop it a little bit the first 2 years, but I just thought this year is like, I can't criticize hardly anyone. Like it's just a shit year. If I can say it's just how else do I put it? It's just been a horrible year in incredibly bad luck, 5 or 6 ACLs and everything like that. It's just,
and it's not just that. Like it was also like the understudies going down too. So if they had, they've obviously got Plan A. They're your number one ruck, your number one backman, and then you've got plans for your understudies. If your understudies have to come in, Brian, Hayes. But then your understudies go down, and it's like, well, we didn't plan for 4 mid-season draftees to all be playing and 15 debutants, and that's the unthinkable. They're the kind of things that don't happen that often. So you don't necessarily have to plan so much, and you don't know what you're planning for. So I just think that there's just such logical explanations that sometimes if I think too deeply into it, outside of the logic, anyone who's not refusing to see the logic and base their opinion solely on this is third year, it's his third year in charge and he's had the group for 3 years, that to me is just a personal vendetta and a dislike of Brad Scott the person, and I can't take the opinion seriously.
Yeah.
Interesting just before we move on from that, Brisbane's an interesting sort of blueprint for what Essendon could do going forward. I mean, we all would remember how bad Brisbane were travelling around that Dame Bean sort of area. I remember Polak, Elliot Yeo, Sam Doherty, all put in for trades to other clubs just based on the way Brisbane was a bit of a basket case. And there's horror stories that came out about Dame Beams and the lack of leadership there. But look how quickly they've turned things around. And that's an interstate team that doesn't have the support of an Essendon or the financial backing of say Essendon and the Coterie. Things can happen so quickly, and teams' fortunes can fluctuate, and it's just crazy to think that we're the ones chasing Brisbane now, considering back then they looked like they were one of the worst teams in the league and we're really travelling poorly. So get the right people in, and hopefully get a fit list, and next year we can really salvage something and get the future looking bright again.
Yeah, look, guys, I'm very much along the same lines. I think, Fiona, one thing that I would say, the 3 years that Brad Scott's had and the emotion around it, I'm very much with you along the lines of there's certain people, and maybe on our Facebook page and the like, that just tee off and he's crap, you can't do this, you can't do that, he's crap, you can't do this, you can't do that. I can, just for a split second, I can kind of understand where they're coming from, because it was such a completely unheralded, weird season, and 2 years ago we faded away incredibly badly in the second half of a season, and everybody went, well, that just cannot happen again, we can't do that, why the hell did that happen? 1 year ago, not including this year, but 1 year ago, we did it again. We faded away again into oblivion in the second half of the season, and the frustrations were there because it was the second season in a row that we've done it. And this Bunny himself sat on the podcast and said, if it happens again in a third year, they're going to burn down the hangar, right? And we just couldn't happen again in a third year. It mustn't be allowed to happen. And then talk about eating humble pie. We didn't just fade away in the second half. We had our entire list taken from us, basically. Our entire list taken from us. And unfortunately, for Bomber supporters, especially this bloke, you just have to... You can't justify it. You can't reason with it. You can't sort of throw the blame on Brad Scott, because nobody knew that both ruckmen were going to go. All of our backline practically would go. You can't be expected to win games of football like that. And it sucks because it's another year where we're just not at the pointy end of anything. But this is a year where you just have to eat it. You have to eat it and go, it is what it is and what it was. Brad Scott, he would have been scrambling. No game plan or like you said, Fiona, no plan, no game plan, no backup plan, no B, C, D, E, F plan could account for what happened this season. And it sucks to say, but you've just got to let this season go. And then when we start to get players back, excuse me, you've still got to give them some time to come back from knees and hammies and ankles and all sorts of stuff. So it's just one of those periods of times where you've got to eat the bad feelings and just move on from them at some stage. And then on top of that, there's the captain and the number one ruck and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely with you guys on that.
But not only that, Grant, also the fact that this year's a write-off in terms of testing out the system, testing out the chemistry, the synergy that could have been built. A year extra of 2 metre Peter, Caddy, Langford playing together, gone down the drain. A year extra of Ridley, Mackay, Reid playing together, gone down the drain. An extra year of the game plan being drummed into their heads, gone down the drain. Yep. So ultimately, next year is Brad Scott's third year, and I know some people are saying, "Oh, well, that's such a cop-out, giving Brad Scott a cop-out." I don't make the rules. I'm just going by the logical facts in front of me, It just, if anything, I'll give you something to be a bit mad about. Be mad about the fact that the strength and conditioning program was flagged as one of the things that was a bit of an issue back when we did the review and nothing changed. Be mad about that, but you can't put this on Brad Scott's shoulders.
No, definitely
For
not.
mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And look, it's interesting going into obviously the high performance team. I think out of that, obviously there's been 3 high profile players, right? That has been noted: Draper, Ridley, Merritt. So we can kind of go through them each one, because I'll be interested to get your point of view. I feel like too many people bunch them together, and I feel like they're all actually 3 individual cases. Now, I know that you still have to review the culture and how that happened, but I still think, from the how I, when we talk to people, I know Fiona talks to people as well, Ridley's a very unique situation. This is a guy that's had years and years of mentally just having to get over, almost having fear of coming back onto the ground and breaking down. And that, to me, from what I hear, is simply the 100% of the issue of the toll that's taken on his mind, and just saying, and at an exit meeting, and a very cordial exit meeting, and I think people need to understand that, a very cordial meeting with Scott, and talking very calmly, as Ridley would, saying, do I need a fresh start? Maybe this is it. I think maybe I need a fresh start. And then talking to him about it. And then so I think Draper's in his own space also. Again, he's an unrestricted free agent. And he's got a partner, and he's going, well, what does my life look like the next 5 years and 5-6 years? And he's chosen Brisbane, and he's chosen a very, very good contract while he's got an Achilles. And that, it is what it is. And I do hear it was a very, very tough decision for him, because I still believe very strongly he loves the players at the club. And he actually does love the club, oddly. I try to get my head around the Draper decision in the end, because I don't think the contract was too far apart, but it didn't have a trigger for a 6 year. Oh, sorry, actually it didn't have a trigger. Yeah, sorry, it didn't have a trigger for a 6 years, so maybe that's a security. And then you got the Merritt situation, which has been the ugly side of things, and so do you feel similar, or do you kind of bunch them together and then want to have a look at the club holistically? I'm just curious about how you've felt when you've seen the 3 names.
They're all very different. I think I agree with you, Scooter. I think the Draper one is tough because of the amount of investment you put in him. He hasn't played a whole lot for a 26-year-old, but as an unrestricted free agent, exercising that right was always a possibility. I know Cal Toomey, he raised this 12 months ago that Adelaide was chasing him, and so it's been out there. Essendon's had the opportunity to really try and keep him by putting together good on-field performances and keeping him healthy. And unfortunately, the Achilles means that he might never be as good as he was in the first half of the season, because, make no mistake, he was having a career best year, and that was playing half up forward, half in the ruck alongside Nick Bryan. But I think as the Brisbane opportunity is really hard to turn down, because you're walking straight into that starting ruck role for a perennial top four side who's right in the premiership window while you're in your prime. So you absolutely understand where Draper's made that decision from. The Ridley one, I don't think he gets traded unless we're getting a decent windfall. I think the situation with Draper's compensation pick, if they can make that contract give us pick 6 in this draft, then I do think that Ridley may get traded to Brisbane to help that. I know there's probably more draft tampering involved than you'd care to admit about that situation, but that's how deals get done. Yeah. The Zach one, I think we need to talk about more in depth, but that's the one that really hurts for me.
Well, the Ridley one, I'm really thankful the club's being proactive, because there's reports coming out that he met with the new fitness boss this week. So obviously that's not a bridge burnt. And like you said, Scooter, he's definitely like a thoughtful kind of guy and articulate. He wouldn't going into that exit meeting demanding a trade, but it would just be more of a float thing. Like, is it good for me to have a fresh start? Like, will I benefit from that? I mean, it's good for him to go up to the rating or the potentially back-to-back premiers and say, I need a fresh start. Why don't I go here? But it's to see he's so open to like meeting new staff and even what Pidge said about he's expecting him to go nowhere. It's really an interesting sort of thing. And you spot on, Scooter. They got bunched together when there's three very different set of circumstances and three instances where they've really, well, two of them in particular have been pretty forthright in what they've been doing. And then Zach Merritt, the clandestine sort of meetings and formulaic sort of stuff. I'm really disappointed in the way he's gone about it. But I understand, as Jasper said about Draper, job security, young family, young bloke too, can't get on the park as much as he wants. Why not go to Brisbane with a pretty good record of getting fit guys going after long layoffs? And yeah, and Ridley, he'll be very pragmatic, I think, in his approach. And if the thing's best for him and best for the club, he'll make the right decision, I feel. But yeah, I really think it's not imperative, but I really would love Ridley to stay. Draper's obviously flagged his intentions, and Zach, I think it's untenable. But what do you guys think? What do you think in particular, you, Fiona, about Zach Merritt's position? Is it untenable? Would you be comfortable with him coming back into the club? Not even necessarily as the skipper, which is probably not going to happen ever again. But would you be happy if he walked back into the club if we can't find a spot for him to leave?
No.
Yeah, I feel you there.
That bridge has been burnt now, and I said this on a show I did with Felix the other day, that I say this with my whole heart and soul in this, and I mean it. And I'm a suffering Essendon supporter like everyone listening and you guys on the panel. I don't care if we finish last on the ladder next year if it means Zach Merritt is not at the club. For me, there is a very distinct line. I have strong principles and morals, and there's a very distinct line between being ruthless in the competition and believing that you're above treating people with respect. And for me, both Mitchell, not surprising, but definitely Merritt has crossed that line. And I just want to acknowledge the people and the consensus that Bomber fans and potentially the club are, going into, pardon me, this character assassination of him. And I just want to say and make it very, very clear that no one has character assassinated more than Merritt has done on himself. And the petulance and the self-indulgence and the lack of awareness to then play the martyr and when truths or potential truths have come out or been leaked about your character, to then attempt to defend when you've sent the first missile and the club has attempted to defend itself for the fans who are crying out for it and are angry and hurting. It's been really triggering for a lot of people, and I'm relaying the feelings of a lot of Essendon fans who have confided in me and how I feel as well myself. And the character assassination is it's laughable, because what I know I'm doing, I'm observing behaviour and I'm using psychoanalytics to summarise the behaviour that I see, and using behavioural science and coming up with an understanding of what this guy has done. And so many people have said we would have been a bit hurt if he'd come out and done it the right way and said that I want to leave because I've done everything I can. But the fact that he's chosen this nuclear way to hurt people in the process will never sit right with me.
Hey, one question I've got, that's a strong view. Now, the only question I would raise to challenge that is that Zach Merritt hasn't said a word. Not one word has he said on this subject. Well,
he has. He came out and said to Jay Clark that he was mortified and hurt and upset and angry about the Carolyn Wilson report of his behaviour with the AFLW.
Has he said a word about Hawthorn? Has he said the word Hawthorn?
What do you mean?
But is that a good thing, considering he could come out pretty quickly and quell any rumours and break clearly.
That's right. If it was untrue, if the meeting was untrue, if it didn't happen.
No. I'm not saying the meetings. I'm not saying that he hasn't done things the wrong way. I'm just trying to take the opposing view here, just for a second, to say he had dinner with an opposing coach. Not good, right? Like that ain't good, right? Okay, cool. It happens 1,000 times every off season, right? It just so happens that he got caught, right? But apart from that, Zach hasn't said anything about going anywhere. His manager has come out and said stuff, apparently through intermediaries, but Zach hasn't said a word. So at the moment, Zach's the captain and is expected to turn up on round one. He hasn't said a word. I'm just what has he done that is so damaging to the psyche of the fans and the players? I sometimes I see people run with what they think Zach's done, but Zach hasn't said a word. He's in the off season. He's gone and met with an opposing coach. Now, poor form, dude. You should have done that out of town or somewhere real quiet or via Zoom or whatever the hell it is. You went and had dinner with the coach and his missus, right? Not cool. But apart from that, Zach hasn't said or done anything yet. How do we have such strong feelings about something that hasn't happened?
Grant, let me try and sum up the situation as best I can, because he's obviously been contemplating a move for 24 months, 2 off seasons, and his manager, Tom Petroro, who's also the Brad Scott manager, has set it in motion, and he's met with Hawthorn. You're right. The Hawthorn Football Club then leaks that meeting to try and set the wheels in motion to get him across, because it needs to be out in the public, and he needs to make his intentions clear through his own voice or through someone else's voice that this is what he wants, because Essendon won't trade him if he doesn't go public with it. So that's,
so Hawthorn did it on his behalf? Hawthorn leaked it on Zach's behalf?
They did it with Oscar Allen 6 months ago, and they've done it with Zach Merritt as well, which may come back to bite them.
You're the first person who I've heard say that it was Hawthorn. Every single other thing I have read and listened to has it that there is no way this doesn't benefit Hawthorn in any way. It's the Merritt camp who have leaked it. Jasper, you're the first one I've actually heard point of view that it benefits Hawthorn more to leak it.
No, the Hawks absolutely need this out in the public for him to go. Otherwise, it's going to be another St Kilda situation where Zach did it behind the club's back. He went away and he had a deep think about it and he decided to stay, because declaring you want to trade is too hard for Zach Merritt if he knows that a trade can't get done. So now that Hawthorn's got it out in the open, you've had Brad Scott come out, you've had Mason Redmond, Nick Martin, Andy McGrath, the board. They've all come out and been, disappointed, hurt, angry, frustrated about the situation, but hoping that Zach does come back to the club. I think the captaincy's probably out of the question now. He can't come back as the captain. That's pretty clear. But it forces Petroro to give the statement on his position and let the world know that, yes, Zach Merritt is actually interested, because the whole world already knows. So it sent Merritt down a path of no return, in my opinion, or at least he would think that now that the interest is declared publicly, and he's hell-bent on getting to the Hawks now that the situation is really frayed and been undone. And the Caroline Wilson report was a bit interesting. She hit hard, really hard back about it being incorrect and the like from Zach Merritt's point of view. I don't know anything about that, but
question, can I ask you, Jasper, if Hawthorn leaked it and now it's made Zach uncomfortable to come back, why would Zach be happy with them leaking it for their benefit? And when
he may not be
Zach in the process,
he couldn't possibly be happy about it. He couldn't possibly.
But that's what I mean. So all the reports we've heard is Zach is adamant to get to the Hawks. Adamant. Doesn't want to go back to Essendon. He's pissed off with so and so and so and so. So why is he now adamant to get to the Hawks if he's not happy with them?
Because the relationship with Essendon is even worse. That's the situation that he's in now. And it happened with Oscar Allen as well. Oscar Allen knew he couldn't go back to West Coast once he got found out, but he was so pissed off with Sam Mitchell and Hawthorn, that getting out, that he didn't go to the Hawks. He went to Brisbane.
Well, apparently, haven't they just come out and said that Zach Merritt said no to Adelaide and turned down Adelaide? So why wouldn't he be considering other options then?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I have no idea why he only wants to go to Hawthorn. I'd assume it's because he only wants success.
And that's the other question I'd sort of asked and challenged to say is that is it as incredibly hurtful and incredibly damaging and hurtful for supporters that he wants to leave? Do we give him any? And this is just a genuine question. Do we give him any credit for the fact that he has, in more than several games and for the last X amount of years, been our only A-grade player or double A-grade elite / player who has dragged this team on his back on several occasions for the last 10 years at least, and he now is being asked to recommit to a club that he knows will be no good for the next 3 to 5 years, and he will basically be teaching kids how to try and win games of football for the rest of his career. That's why he's gone nuclear, I think. He's been sold the vision under Brad Scott multiple times. He re-signed in, I think it was 2022, and then again last year when he was considering the St Kilda
offer, he feels like he's been sold a lie. What Brad Scott has given him behind closed doors around the vision about the plan, and I would assume it's a plan within his contract, not an extension of that contract, must be a lie to him, because he feels that the Essendon Football Club can't have any sustained success while he's still playing.
That's it.
Do you think that's over the last 12 months that's happened, Jasper, or do you think that's an ongoing thing?
No, I think 2022 is when he re-signed. I think there was a nucleus of players that included, some of his best mates in Stringer and Nick Hind and Laverty, those types who are out the door now. But that is a vision sold to him that hasn't come to fruition. And I think that as a player, as a captain, would make you really agitated.
But rearranging that contract, though, sorry, Scooter, just one more. Just rearranging that contract like he did last year, isn't that a pretty bad sign for you? I think, ostensibly, you look at that and say, well, he's committed, and the club's rewarding him when they really didn't have to. He was already under contract, and they felt he needed to be remunerated a little bit better. But it seems to me like he's kind of dug his own hole in a sort of space like that. I just don't know how you could sign something like that. But in the back of your mind, you're already thinking, "Fuck, this is going to be a long slog. We need to really knuckle down as a club and do the rebuild," because it just flies in the face of contract, and then how it's happened with Hawthorn. It's just a really interesting thing that I really wanted your thoughts on, mate.
What I will say about the contract is it was signed at a time where we didn't know what the CBA was going to look like. This is getting into very specific stuff, but it was at about $850K a year, which is significantly unders for what he's worth to a football club, especially when they don't have many big players on the books and they have the cap space to re-sign him. So I think it's a no-brainer to accept the money, but I can't speak to what you're arguing about accepting that money and not wanting to play for the club.
And he was also going to be playing with Sam Draper and potentially Jordan Ridley and anybody else. These other guys that are going to be there that now aren't going to be there. And we're basically asking him to have no success in his career. That's it. That's what we're asking him to do. And I know he signed the contract and he signed it for 4 years and things, but you are okay to change your mind, especially when your number one ruckman's gone and they've got this many injuries. And next season's a write-off because we only get half of them back halfway through a year. But it is a big call for a guy that you have lent on so hard as a player for the last 10 years at least, to then just say, well, bad luck, we need you for another 5, which basically means you won't have any sort of sustained success in your career. That's what we're asking him to do.
I'm going to do a bit of a rebuttal here. Sorry, but suck it up. He's the captain of the football club. It's a 150-year-old club. He's the captain of the club. You signed to be the captain of the club. You agreed to be the captain of the club. You meant to see your career through as the captain of the club to see success.
You can't leave.
If you want to pout. And because you're close, you're 3-4, if your close mates leave the club and you feel isolated, sorry, suck it up. That's my personal feeling.
Hang on a sec. Suck it up and just lose for the rest of your career. Just lose.
But he's got 5-6 more years in him. Are we conceding that we're going to be bad for 6-7 potentially more years? He goes on and on about how good he is in terms of keeping his body up and about, and he's shown that that's true. He's a young 30-year-old, let's be honest.
I appreciate he's got 6 years in him, but even if we are successful inside of those 6 years, we're definitely not successful in the next 3. So you're just saying suck it up.
Yeah,
no, well, can I ask you a question?
Definitely.
Yeah, that. I definitely am. But can I ask you a question as well? How good is his leadership? We know that he's a phenomenal player. He's the only good player, A-grade player, let's say, on the list that you're conceding, right? How good is his leadership? How many of his teammates has he brought along with him to get to that A-grade level? How good is his leadership?
He can't make him drink. He can bring him to water, but he can't make him drink, right? He can't make Elijah Sardis be able to kick a football.
I mean,
right?
I'm talking about holistic leadership behind the scenes. I mean, putting in the work, one-on-one.
But we don't know. That's the thing. It's the subject we don't know, other than his performances on the field where he has been exemplary.
And I would argue, Grant, that we would know, because I would suggest that there'd be players who, I'm not saying there'd be players at his level, his A-grade level, but I'm saying that along his journey, I would see that there are other players who are raising the level.
That's the coach's
just
job.
like him.
That's the coach's job to make the players raise to a level that Nick Cox isn't going to do it. Perkins isn't going to do it.
I don't just mean on the field. I mean all round level raise.
But we don't see that. Like Andy McGrath is, Archie Roberts is lifting his profile as a leader. We can't make. This is the thing. We have conversations, and I have conversations on Facebook and stuff about who's going to be our next captain, and it's Andy McGrath, in my opinion, right? But people say, it should be Sam Durham because he's a leader on the field and he's rough and he's in on the bottom of the packs, all that sort of groovy stuff I appreciate. But if that was the case, if it was the best player on the team also has the responsibility as captain to improve the performance of the players around him, you wouldn't need a high performance coach and assistant coaches and that sort of stuff because it would be Zach's role. Zach is leading by example. They're professional sports people. If they can't improve themselves to his level, what more would you like him to do? Really, like he has worked his rear end off for this club, and I think it's a bit disingenuous to say he hasn't done that because Archie Perkins isn't the player that we thought he was going to be, or this player isn't the thought he was going to be, and that's got anything to do with Zach. Because if you want to see
I didn't say that though. I didn't insinuate that though.
But you said that how many players have risen to a certain level. That's got nothing to do with Zach.
I think it has a little bit to do with Zach and his leadership, particularly. I think we get that there's the potential that we're seduced by how exceptional of a player he is on field, and we assume that he's doing the best for everybody else involved and bringing teammates along with him. But from what I understand and what I see and what I feel, I don't necessarily think that's the truth. That's my opinion, of course.
No, that's okay. That's perfectly cool.
No, look, look, that's a little bit of my sense as well because, look, there's no doubt when you hear any interview from anyone that's under 23 years old at our club, then McGrath's mentioned nearly 100% of the time. And no offence, but I don't hear the name Zach Merritt. But that's just me. That's just how I try and read between the leaves but yeah, so what happens
with the access to the club that you have though, dude, that you can do that.
Yeah, but
you've got the inside knowledge that the average punter doesn't have, right?
And we're trying to help get that across a bit without specifically saying exactly what we know. I guess.
Exactly correct, right? So, but you are right. I guess the one it's always the thing. We went from Dyson Heppel, whose arm around the shoulder, mate, it's going to be okay, and probably, and that's why he's so loved, right? Because he was the arm around a shoulder guy. But was he hard enough on the players? Like, what did he drive performance well enough rather than the arm around the shoulder saying it's going to be okay? So then they voted in Zach Merritt, who's the exact opposite, right? Here's what you need to do. Now bugger off and do it, right? Is that which one do we need moving forward? Do we need a mix of the two? What do we need?
Well, it goes into an interesting subject, right? Because saying, okay, let's paint the picture of Zach Merritt gets traded in a month or so's time, right? How are you viewing the captaincy? And what do you think of a sole captain or a co-captain situation? Like I'm floating the idea of a McGrath Martin kind of situation. Like do you like that idea if it was a short-term kind of view of galvanizing, or do you just want the sole captain? How do you feel, Jas?
Yeah, Merritt can't come back as captain. Absolutely.
Yeah, we all understand that.
Agreed,
That won't happen. So choosing the new captain, I think it should be Nick Martin. And I think the injury kind of helps him in this situation where you want your captain to be there for an extended period of time. You don't want these 2 to 3 year captains handing it over, in my opinion. I think you want someone to lead from the front for an extended period of time and usher in a new era, especially for this Essendon team. And he's kind of that older player out of the young crop, whereas in my belief, McGrath's kind of that in that late era where you want to be led from one of these guys who's going to carry you to the next premiership. I don't think that's necessarily McGrath, but I do think it can be Nick Martin. And the opportunity for him to come back mid-season, whenever it is, maybe round 14 next year, he plays his first game of football. That means for 13 rounds of the season, he's had opportunities to do more media, to sit in the coach's box, to sit at ground level, to instruct his players more one-on-one, to be able to be a leader without that on-field responsibility, and then to actually move into the role properly as a player as well. It gives McGrath the opportunity to captain for 13 weeks of the year. I think it works really well.
Would you entertain if the club said even for 12 months a Martin, but having McGrath on a dual?
Of course. Yeah. Of course, because Ben Stratton captained the Hawthorn Football Club for a year. This stuff always happens. No one's ready, then give it to Andy McGrath, in their opinion. Yeah,
because the tough thing I find is knowing when you go to the hangar and behind the scenes stuff, how much McGrath does, and especially to the crop going through. And I just feel like I'm finding it hard not to think of McGrath, even if it was a 12 months, just to not be a strong leader at that club, considering the groundwork he's done. Because whether we like it or not, you do feel like there's going to have to some sort of unifying feel next year, because your captain has been ripped out of the club, and it's a big deal. And you're a very high profile personality. In Sam Draper's left, and it's probably not being discussed enough about how big this guy is at training. Like, he is the presence at training. So two big people leave your club. I just feel like there's who's the unifier for 12 months. But what do you think, Todd?
Well, it's an interesting point, and if we had the answer, we'd share it pretty simply. So it's very nuanced. Andy McGrath's obviously, he was drafted number one pick. Leadership skills were perhaps one of his selling points, especially with a club that was coming off of those suspensions and whatnot. But I really think he's a great leader on and off the field. As you mentioned, great behind the scenes. He presents well, speaks in the media well, and in terms of off-field character, I think he is as good a candidate as anyone. On-field, I thought he was starting to turn it around towards the end of the season with a midfield role, and that opens up even further with Zach Merritt going. So I can definitely see what Jasper's point of view is with Nick Martin. I'd push back only on the fact that he won't be there for that little period to begin with. So naming your captain while he's on the injury list is a little bit stifles what you could do on field a little bit. But for me, Andy McGrath's the no-brainer. Give him 2 to 3 years, as you mentioned earlier, about trying him out, and maybe he excels in that position, becomes one of the best leaders in the AFL, and he's good to go from there. But I really think that he's the man to go forward.
And that's a VC for a reason.
Yeah.
He's there for a reason, right?
Yeah, and that Saints game where he was captain with the 1 week Merritt was out actually was by far almost his best game of his career. That's how I felt anyway. What do you think, Fiona?
The idea was floated by Felix from Everything Essendon about the co-captains, McGrath and Martin, and I'm irrationally against co-captains. I don't know why. I just don't like the idea of it. I cannot explain it.
Neither do I.
99% of the time, I typically am. Yeah. Trust me.
but I can't explain why. I just don't like it. But in this case, given that it's going to be quite rocky waters, there's going to be, as you say, a few personalities plucked, I think potentially for the better, and there could be some clean air, and I think we could possibly excel with this new galvanised, I won't say pig-headed, but very strong, motivated group of 21 to 23-year-olds. So I think the co-captaincy could be quite a good idea, and I personally think Nick Martin would be my choice, given that he's just this really special blend of fire and heart off the field. He's everything you want in a leader. He's so fiercely proud of wearing the jumper, and he's an exceptional communicator. He has the ability to connect with all kinds of personalities, and he appreciates all kinds of personalities and people's nuances, and that everybody's different and requires a different approach. And then on the field, he's this energetic, just determined to fight and run and be better, and is full of beans and full of energy. So, and a good motivator on the ground. So I think ultimately he would be my captain with a nice little transition into Archie Roberts. But the co-captaincy, I would be totally okay with the co-captaincy as well, with maybe for now a Langford as a vice, or maybe Redmond, but Langford would be my choice only because Roberts is probably not ready for that vice just yet.
Yeah, so look, let's go to a quick 30-second break. But before we do, as people know with the podcasts, we got the lovely people of whatever it is, YouTubes and all those big companies giving us the copyright warnings, because we used to have all the Regurgitator and Rage Against the Machine and all for our ad breaks, and we can't do that anymore. So we had a bit of a mini kind of competition, and people sent through their music. So we're gonna play some music from a Bombers fan called Daniel Casey, who emailed me some music that he's done himself. So he's given us permission to use it. So Daniel, look, thank you so much, man. These are what makes Bomber communities great. The fans' input into all our pods, whether it be a YouTube show or an audio podcast or anything like that. So thank you, Daniel. This is from Daniel Casey, our new ad music for the month. So here we go, and we'll be back after the ad.
Very cool new music. Thank you. That's very cool. Welcome back to the Lunchtime Catch Up podcast in our round table lesson and discussion. Scotty, what do we got next?
Yeah, look, so it's been an energetic fourth row discussion so far. But look, this is footy. This is passion, and this is what we're Essendon fans. This is what we do.
We care. We love the club.
We care, and that's it. Everyone's coming from a place of care.
That's the correct word, Todd. That's a perfect word. I think we care for the club.
I've got my mama hat on right now. Like, this is what I feel like I'm the mama protecting my club. And now I hold space for a lot of Essendon supporters who are, I'm so, honoured to, who feel comfortable sharing with me their feelings and thoughts. And I feel like I'm speaking on their behalf too. And there's a lot of rage and a lot of hurt. So. Yeah.
And look, moving on. So just thinking about the football club in general, coming into a massive off season, obviously a huge draft, and if the merit trade does go through, it could be the mother of all drafts from the Essendon Football Club. What are your thoughts on 2026? We've had the high performance announcements, and that's obviously been changed over. Are you optimistic? Are you dreading? Are you what? I'll start with you, Fiona. What's the general feel about what the next 12 months may be? Are you thinking like it's just this is actually we may need this and it may re-trigger a genuine new feel to the club? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know it might sound like I am rage-filled, and part of me is, but I genuinely have started to move past that onto the other side where I actually can come out and I can see the light of this situation. I can see the world where Zach Merritt leaves and Draper's gone and perhaps Ridley in my little fantasy is still there. But I can see how good this can be for us and the new air and the clean air that this could potentially provide. And I can also feel the exuberance of some more young guns and some more caddies and some more Robertses. And I have no reason to doubt Rosa. He's nailed it so far. So for that sole reason alone, I'm just putting my hand up and saying he's going to nail this draft. And we're gonna get some more Clarks and, as I said, Roberts and caddies and Cacos through the door. And, well, those guys have already got a whole year's worth, a lot of them's experience this year. And then injecting some more youth and possibly some other little bits and bobs if we can combine some picks and get up in the order and get some even more high quality kids, then I I have hope. I feel hopeful now because I can see the light. I can see the bigger picture now.
I think that's the big silver lining too from this season. A lot of these guys, I reckon Clark would have probably forced his way in, and Kako plays the majority of the season, irrespective, I think. But a lot of these young guys got opportunities probably before they earned it in terms of VFL play, just by virtue of the injuries. I think just about every single player that debuted, young guy, really showed something, like varying levels. I mean, Archie Day Wicks kicked a goal on debut. He probably wasn't the best of that crop so far, but he showed something. And Vigo showed something when he came in. He's a couple of years probably from hitting his peak, so it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. But like Clark, full season, or just about full season once he came in, looked great on debut, kicked 3 goals, and now he's versatile. I'm just really, Zach Johnson especially, I know I'm pretty sure you're a big fan, Scooter. He's like really, really excelled when he came in.
I'm a fan of him playing seniors.
Better. That'd be nice, yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. We got the way to go forward, Matty Rosa. Unfortunately, it's under duress for a few of these guys walking out the door. We've got some big shoes to fill, but I really do think we're on the right track, and I'm stoked with how the list management's gone so far. But yeah, next year, no expectations. But the year after that, if we show some progress, I'll be super happy.
Jasper, where's your mind at? And you know the draft well as well, which I'll talk to you a bit about later, but you know also what may be coming through with the talent. You know, say we could end up with 4 top 10 picks in reality, but you know what's also coming through about what we've got to develop. Where's your mind at?
Oh, my mind's already at trade scenarios, because when you talk about one club dealing or trading for your best asset in the entire club, it's difficult to see how you get your money's worth, and especially with a team like Hawthorn, who all of their assets that would be available are all kind of steak knives, instead of having that one piece that you can kind of build a trade around. So for me, it's really difficult to see how Essendon actually comes out of a Zach Merritt deal on top. So that's why I think that it's such a defining off-season for the footy club. And you know, losing your captain to a trade is always going to be defining. But in terms of what you get back and what you can build around, it could be, you know, years of misery if you don't get the right pieces back right now, because this is probably as good an opportunity as you can to reset and hit the draft.
Jasper, do you think that a third team likely has to get involved, that maybe a player that we caught from another team that gets caught in a 3-way kind of situation?
Absolutely. That's the only way that you can get value on it, because you look at what Hawthorn has. They have pick 8. It would be pick 13, 14 at the draft in a weak pool. They have a future first. They'll be top 4 next year, judging by this year. They've got Cam McKenzie, who I don't necessarily rate. Some others do. Kane Corns definitely does, but I don't necessarily see as a player to build your midfield around. And Henry Hustwaite, who's languishing in the VFL. I think all of those assets will be available in a trade, but you're talking about Zach Merritt, a top 10, 15 player in the competition, still in his prime, playing another 6 years of football. You just need way more than that.
And also going on that, Jasper, it's a hard sell getting guys to come to the club, especially considering this is on his way out. So it's the most important thing you mentioned about progress is, like, we got to get next season right. There's some optimism around the club, because I love Essendon, and if I was in the open pool right now, I would not want to go to Essendon, considering the off-field turmoil and everything that goes with it. So we've often spoken, Jasper, you and I on the podcast, about Brad Scott shifting the culture, and I think that's the priority going forward. And we see little aspects of that when we went out to the hangar and staying game day sort of stuff, but it's got to be a priority, and it's got to be a club that, you know, not doesn't necessarily have to be a destination club like a Hawthorn is right now, but one you could come and you could be pretty confident that the team and the coaches is going to be fully aligned in what we want to do, because it hasn't been that way for a decade or so now. It's time to really right that ship. And
Fiona said something actually really good. Might have been last night or the night before. She was on with a North Melbourne representative, Pommy, and she made a really good comment, which I was going to text her and say good comment, but I'm saying
always appreciate the validation, Scooter.
But this is where I stand: is we can have all this top end talent come through, but unlike Richmond, Brisbane, Geelong, unless the foundation is not right once and for all, and yet the high performance team coming in actually is a big block to that, I should say. So I should say good things are actually happening. But until that foundation to me is secure, stable, and there's high quality people that are developing, we get a head of development role organised. I know we're looking at that, but we get more things in place. I still think there's going to be an issue of progressing fast, those kids. So that's my view. Maybe Fiona, you can share on that because you raised it, but I thought it was a good point, but I think that's where my head's at about the foundation of the club is pivotal to me for everything to progress at the speed and level and expertise that we need.
Yeah, I mean, the way it got raised was by the comparison between Essendon and Richmond, and that the Richmond's gone past Essendon. Hawthorn's bottomed out, sort of, but not really, and then gone past Essendon. And I simply made the fact that that's comparing a pear with a grape, because they have a culture, they have a foundation of success, of contentment, a very solid base, and when the new administration came in with Brad Scott and Barham and Vozzo, they really had to knock it all down to the ground and clear the decks. And, they had to sniff out the ego, and they had to sniff out wherever the toxicity was, and start to get rid of that past toxicity that was lingering in people, in the walls, in the ground, in whoever, and start to build one from scratch. So you can't compare those clubs and the development of their young guns and how far their young guns come and how quickly their young guns come on, because our development, our culture is completely void. And so that's why I see some light in this. Is Draper leaving going to be good for culture? Is Merrick leaving going to be good for culture? Is it not? I don't know. Time will tell on that, of course, but I can only see, like, a lot of people were happy with the Stringer going, and that potentially could be good for culture because he played a certain way and maybe he didn't buy in. Like, that was the general consensus during the time. So what I can see is that there are small little incremental changes being made, or adjustments, improvements, whatever you want to call them, attempts, because we don't know if they'll come to fruition yet, attempts to get the culture, running, and to get it built on some strong foundations and unconditional attitudes, and a really team environment where everyone's there for one another and not self-serving or not, worried about individual accolades. So, look, I completely agree. Until the development is fine-tuned and very elite, we can get the number one kid in the door every single. Look at Kangaroos. I don't know what their culture's like, but how many first-round draft picks do they have? And they haven't quite nailed their performances. So, yeah, that was the general conversation on.
Hey, Jasper, this is probably a question for you. We're about to lose our best player and our best midfielder at that. I know it's got to be minimum 2 first rounds, and they've got to be high first rounds, and we've got to get value for Zach Merritt more than anybody leaving the club. We have to get it. Do you think the offer, the deal for Zach should include a ready-made replacement for him, as good as we can get? Like, do we need a good functioning player now, or can we just seriously work on the real value being in the highest first rounds we can find, and then grab a Mitch Lewis or somebody like that just as a steak knife?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, but you want to covet the best assets that they can possibly generate, and that's not going to come from them personally. You're not going to get Will Day or Jai Newcomb or Cal Shadia. You're just not going to get those types of assets. So when Scooter alluded to needing a third team to get involved, you're going to need a third team or a fourth team or a fifth team to get involved to get this done. And the three things that I think are gettable in this trade period that would make losing Zach Merritt easier to digest. For one, I think Zach Bailey, if he's gettable as a pre-agent, I know we've already had a chat to his management about sending a lot of cash his way next year when he comes into free agency, 1.3 million. That could get up to 1.5 million if you got him across this year. And if he became part of the Zach Merritt deal, then I think that really eases things a lot and gives us a ready-made player to I think, in my opinion, to play midfield. The other thing that I think will be available is West Coast pick 1 and their future first round pick, which are both, in my opinion, going to be, pick one next year as well. So those two picks, if you can get one of them in a Zach Merritt deal and a 3-team trade, then I think you should really covet it and you should be chasing that as hard as you possibly can.
This year with Dursman, do you think, or the following?
Look, I would love to get Willem Dursman. I think he's a standout prospect this year. But next year, you're going to have a couple guys. I don't know if the NGA rules is going to change. We're yet to hear that from the club. But Dougie Cochran is about as high a caliber as prospect as you can possibly get. As it stands, he's in the open pool. I would love to get that asset as well. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, well, that's you're obviously just. I've got to ask a draft question because my audience will kill me. So it's probably going back to you. Sorry, Jasper. You've obviously released I saw the ESPN rankings go out again. There's no doubt there's been, for Essendon fans, it seems to be the draft bolter has been discussed at length. In the situation that the Draper compensation pick goes our way, and we have 5, 6, 7 on draft night, and I know before anyone says, yes, I know it's 9, 10, 11 or 8, 9, 10, whatever you want to, on draft night. But say you have 3 picks. Are you with one of those picks getting Sullivan and Roby?
Yeah, I think so. In the open pool, I think I have him at the 5th best player available, which is where we kind of sit right now. If you imagine that our picks are 5, 6, and 7, then that's kind of where it would land. In the end, I think Roby is a really, really cool talent in terms of his power and speed from contest. He's got some defensive versatility as well. I think he could make a standout inside midfielder in due time at 192 centimetres. What I'm a little bit cognizant of is that I'm pretty open about this being a pretty weak draft. I think it's probably the weakest since 2020. Clubs, I don't know if Essendon does this, but clubs in general pick and choose their moments to go to the draft. And if they don't love the draft, they'll trade into the future or they'll trade for ready-made talent, depending on their list. I'm very cognizant of the fact that we may be hitting the 2 worst drafts of the last 6 years really hard and not appreciating the other drafts enough. If you consider, I think probably Sullivan Roby would be, maybe 15th or 16th in my rankings last year. He could be a top 5 pick this year. That means that, the draft could be 3 times as bad as last year, and you're going hell for leather, bringing in 5 top 20 picks plus your NGA boys in that kind of draft. I think you set yourself up to have another kind of Perkins, Cox, Reed Hall where it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, so that's probably why you're probably in favour, if we are going to do a trade of picks, to get Dursma, mainly because out of this draft pick, he would probably be in a top 7 player of the last draft.
Yeah, well, exactly right. I think he's an uber talent regardless of any draft pool. He's been number 1 all year, and I believe that he can be a generational type inside midfielder at the next level in due time. And that's the type of player, the game-breaking talent that Essendon's screaming out for. You need to take upside swings on these guys and not just the role player guys that you think can develop.
So, look, to close out the discussion, and thanks everyone for joining us. And it just shows you, it makes me laugh. Just even this conversation has been reflective of my ex on Twitter, or what do you want to call it? Just so many different opinions. And what's and on a positive note, what's the most positive thing you're thinking right now about the Essendon Football Club? I'll start. And I can say this because I've got permission, but I had a couple of conversations with some players in this week that are, I'll say, 24 and under. And from that conversation, which was a good conversation, especially with one of them, I was really buoyed about, despite what was going on, where their headspace was at. And both of them told me separately, without knowing I contacted either one, about how much the group is talking to each other every day consistently, and talking about already preparing about how they're going to lead this club forward, and very focused and very determined. And one of them basically wanted to train at the hangar tomorrow, even though it may have been overseas. But there was very much a feeling of understanding what's happening, but also it's an opportunity for them to lead and work with each other. And some of these people were really young. And I was taken aback about the vigor and how they were talking about it, about how close they were as a young group, especially, and how tight knit where they were, and it kind of occurred to me today about how little they know about Saga stuff. They care about Saga stuff. They were 7 years old. They couldn't give a rat. So the mindset of I just want to be in a football club that has success, and I'm going to lead and do everything I can to get it. That's all I'm going to think about. And I was just taken aback about how close knit they were, despite the commentary that you can see in the media and that. It actually gave me a different lens about mainly, maybe I felt probably underneath the 25 and under group how tight knit they were and how focused they were, and these are not the names I'm talking about, but you can see it in the Archie Roberts, and you can see it in the Cads, and you can see it in Kako how he played this year. You can see it Newen, even just with the small bit, and you can see when a fight starts, Angus Clark's the first one to come in and start a fight, and he's a stick, and but you see it in their attitude and how. And it just took me back anyway, because it was so sincere about how they communicate. It wasn't company line, I can promise you that. And it just took me back when, okay, things aren't, it calmed me down, and things aren't as bad, than maybe what's being portrayed. There is very much a group coming through that wants success and wants to achieve it quick, very quick to some, in 12 months. But yeah, it was really exciting to listen to. So that's just my kind of story, and I hope people will take that on board. But Todd, what's out of a bleak kind of time, what keeps you going as a fan?
Last draft definitely, and just before you said about this year's pool, in terms of talent-wise, it still would be great to have a bit of a haul of those players. So, there's a tight-knit group that want to have success together. So, like, when you come into a club with another player, there's always just an inherent bond there. And I think that's something strong we need to focus on going forward. And of course, it's been a disconnect throughout the whole club the entire time. So it's a really difficult sell sometimes, but I think it's the most important part of it. But more back to you, Scooter. The guys that debuted this year just really showed something, all of them. And if I don't know how you could look at someone like Angus Clark, Kako, as much as he improved throughout the year, and Nate Caddy, obviously, these guys are on the fast track to being very, very good AFL players, if not A-grade potential. And they're all coming through together. It's just that finding that conduit with Zach Merritt missing. But maybe it's a good thing in terms of what we get out of what we're going forward, that his leadership's obviously not worked on the playing group. So let's try a different methodology going for it. It would be a very tough sell to, strip, you probably wouldn't, but strip him of the captaincy, knowing that he's not the right voice for the playing group right now. But we'll have the opportunity for a guy like Andy McGrath. And you said yourself, Scooter, the young guys just rave about this kid and his leadership qualities. I think just this young core of guys who are really hungry and want to bring the club success again. And they looking back, they know nothing of the saga. And the worst thing they know about the footy club is how long ago the finals win was. So it's it's almost a clean slate with what we can do culture-wise. And Brad Scott coming in, he's been really adamant about shifting that culture. And I think off-field that stuff's really working. So we just stay the course, back our players in, and get the fitness boss fit and firing. And then the sky's the limit. Just get through a season with not a huge injury toll, some optimism going into it, and see if we can unearth some talent that can hit the ground running this off season. Anything can happen. I'm really buoyed and positive about where we're going. It's just a bleak little 2-week period we've got. Well, unfortunately, we can't go out in the park to distract ourselves with an Essendon game, and that's what's made it probably the toughest for fans to swallow down, is that we don't have the week after week footy to kind of take our minds off things. It means we dwell on it a little bit too much, but I hope people will share my optimism there, because I really do like the young crop coming through, and they're fun to watch, and they care about each other. I don't know. I just think that's an awesome thing. But what are your thoughts, Scooter, specifically to that? Is that how you view things too?
Yeah, look, I do. And and we only briefly touched on it, but it shouldn't. I generally think the high performance recruitment is a really big deal. Like I'm trying not to undersell it in some ways, because I think it's a massive deal for this club. Because
has he already made contact with Jordan Ridley? How good's that? Like, that's proactive positioning. The guy's barely been in the job 24 hours. He's contacting the bloke who wants to walk out because he can't get his fitness right. I think it's just a huge tick of approval for the board getting that done. The proof will be in the pudding of next year and the next years to come about whether he actually can curtail that injury crisis or if there's something more to it. But right now, being proactive on the front foot is what Essendon hasn't been for such a long time, and that really boosts my confidence that we're on the right track finally.
Yeah, and it's important to know just quickly that the West Coast stuff happened in his second year. So I think there has to be an expectation too with ACLs and everything like that. There's no magic wand next year that he's going to touch that everyone's like suddenly, everyone's kind of healed and all the continuations. And so I'm sure, and Todd, you might know this about, I'm sure it's an actual process of building your body in a certain way and a methodic way over 12 months that then in your second year, you saw with West Coast that their soft tissue injuries just dropped quite dramatically because of. So I think in my head I have to have an expectation too that cuts him into some flack next year. He's got a lot of work to do just to build up 12 months of just systems and process and that he's especially with guys like Rids and Langers and that sort of stuff. So look, Jasper. Is there anything that you're kind of semi-positive about? Is there things that you're looking forward to at least next year?
Oh, absolutely. It's the hard reset that the club has desperately needed for a long time, and it gives everyone an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and go again. Like next year, if Goldie does get moved on or retires, there won't be a player over the age of 29 on the list. It's a remarkably young list that we've got going for us, and our best players are under 25 years old, basically. All of them. I think about Nick Martin and Jai Caldwell, those types of players. Those are the guys to lead our club forward now, and I feel really confident that those are the types of players that can lead our club forward, and I feel more confident about the last couple of waves of players than I do about the Zach Merritt wave and about probably the Mason Redmond, Andrew McGrath type of age bracket as well. I think the youth is really going to push us forward, and there's going to be a lot of losses over the next few years, but I think there's going to be a lot of joy watching these young kids develop as well.
Yep. Fiona, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think with the high performance team, I think, change is as good as a holiday. And I think fresh eyes and fresh systems and fresh routines could really benefit the entire group, not just your Ridleys and your Reeds. Yeah. So I think they'll be really buoyant about just a fresh view, a fresh voice, and new ways to do things, because that what comes with that is hope and the unknown, and you automatically, the way we're built as humans, your automatic response is to have hope in a new process, in a new system, in a new change. So that then sends the message to your body and your muscles, and everything kind of goes on from there. So, but in terms of a positive, look, thinking about it more, Zach, is he one of the last ones who are kind of there around the saga? And your point, he wasn't involved, obviously, but he was at the tail end playing when the guys were suspended. So he has that as part of his identity, and so part of his frustration and being the ultimate competitor he is, not winning, having lived through that and the demons of that, he carries a darkness and an energy that the others don't hold, and so they don't feel the same heaviness as he does, and possibly, and I know this from an energetic point of view, those two energies clash. So he's is coming from a frustration, not just I want to win, but I'm frustrated with the lack of success in the past, which every Essendon supporter holds, and they're coming from these kids who are untouched, who are pure, untouched from the saga, are coming from an energetic point of view of, I just want to be better yesterday. I want to be better tomorrow. I want to be good because I want to hold up a cup. They're unfiltered. They're pure from that heaviness, and possibly that's where the disconnect comes, maybe behind the scenes between the two. And that's why I think this could be possibly a really good way for us to get some full clean air. And when I say clean air, I don't mean that in a negative connotations. I mean that with positivity for everyone involved. So, yeah, I'm buoyant about that. And, I love the tenacity and the attitude that these Roberts and Caddies and Cacos just want to be better right now, not tomorrow, but right this minute. Like by tonight, by the close of the day today, I want to be better. And I said it to you, Scooter, the other day. Like Caco played every single game this year, and I would have said to him, "You don't come near the hangar. You go and refresh. You don't come near the hangar for at least 3 months, 2 months. I don't want to see you. You keep up your rehab or your conditioning behind closed doors. Go to a new gym, but don't come to the hangar." And of course, where is he last week? Running laps with, I think it was Elijah Sardis at the hangar, just getting down to it and doing everything he can. So that's the attitude that I want to see, and it's an attitude of not from a negative energy. It's from I just want to get back out
excitement
there
energy.
Yeah, not because I want to do right by the past or right by the saga, and it's fueled by a negative energy. It's actually fueled by positive energy, which then goes on to, I think, is going to go on to produce possibly something very special. So,
Mr. Grant, to close us out,
Mate, look, notwithstanding the info that you gave me about those chats you had with the players, right? And the stuff that you told me, and you went into obviously more detail than you can sort of publicly, right? That's very encouraging. Like being really encouraging, the kids and the attitude that they have. But I promise you I am not doing this to take the direct opposite view to everybody. I promise you I am not. I can't be enthusiastic about something.
Well, you
at the
can.
moment.
You can, Grant.
I really can.
That's what makes a good discussion. You can say just for the sake of it.
Well, okay, but this is honestly how I feel. There is so much to do yet at the club that I'm not in a positive space at the moment. I'm really not. We have to maximise. If we don't get what we need to get for merit, it'll be a massive blow to the club. Like if we don't nail that, if the high performance guy doesn't do what he needs to do, if we don't, if Rids goes, if there's more discontent, like I said, I promise you, I'm not trying to do this just to take the opposing view, but I'm not in a positive space at the moment because we are in so much turmoil. The kids, fabulous, love them. Great stuff. Completely wrong about Isaac Caco. We'll say it from the highest yard arm. But my brain at the moment is there is so much work that needs to be done at the Essendon Footy Club. I'm just looking for the club to nail that. If we nail the high performance stuff, and if we nail keeping Rids, and we nail the merit trade, and we get a really good draft hand, and then we use it well, then I'll be enthusiastic for next year. But at the moment,
you're on pause.
I'm literally on pause. That's exactly it. I'm literally on pause at the moment because I can sit there and think of my man Archer Dayworks. I reckon there's a player in there, even though he didn't really show it. There's a player there. There is a player in Clark. There's Isaac Caco. Again, I will say that I was wrong, but I can't do it just at the moment. I can't be smiley about the Essendon Football Club at the moment because it's such a massive off season that, like you said, Jasper, it's a complete reset. In
saying that, I still think we'll finish bottom four. So even though I am positive, I still think we're going to finish very low.
This is the thing, is that we get half these players back. We don't get Martin back till halfway through the season or something like that. We go. So look, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer at the end of the pod, but it's just, oh, geez, there's so much. Like Craig Vozzo's rear end would be barely sat down at the moment. He would be running from one problem to the next problem, to Zach Merritt, to the high performance people, to everything, right? So I have full faith, don't get me wrong, full and frank faith in the ability for the club to now that merit's going to be the issue, that whatever the hell it's going to be, that we have had plenty of time to plan. Rose is the man. I will give him his dues. And we will have plenty of time to make the decisions and moves that we need to do. But at the moment, it's a really high pressure point of the season. And I can't just give over to sort of enthusiasm. But I'm really looking forward to the start of next season, as I always am. But damn, we have to nail this off season.
Yeah, and that's the reality too, isn't it? There's a lot of big decisions to be made that you hope 90% of them are made well. Because
they just have to be, man. And it's not whether or not we get Willem Dersmer or whether or not we draft another Archie Perkins who may or may not be the pick 5 that we thought, pick 7 or whatever he was, or Elijah at pick 5 and that sort of stuff, right? So that putting that stuff aside, I assume we've got economic issues we're going to deal with. We've got high performance trade, captains leaving, rucks leaving. Do we sign Goldie for another season because now Brian is the man and Vigo may not be 100% ready? But I'm ranting. So just a massive off season, and I like every Essendon supporter will be any help they need. You want to run anything by me, boys? Go for it.
Well,
get yourself over to Bali, mate. You need an off season more than the players do.
Yeah, that is not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea.
And a bintang or something.
Yeah, several bintangs. I don't mind that.
You'll be happy to know that about 3 weeks ago he did actually book a trip to Bali.
Yes, I have.
So it was
the refresh will do you good, mate.
It was pre-Sam Mitchell, so he must have known something was coming.
Oh my God! Talking about who's in tune with the energies and what's happening in the future.
Mate, I'm going to stock up on diesel t-shirts and Billabong shorts. And drink until Bintang comes out of my ears.
So look,
and then come back and tell us how you feel about the future.
And then come back and then just not be just be honest at that point. Yeah, sure.
Well, we all know the future's Zach Johnson. So
that's the thing. Yeah, if they play him.
Now, thank you, everyone. Look, how long have we do this? An hour and 21 minutes. So we've done well. But look, thank you. Look, it's obviously been a big moment for the Essendon Football Club the last 2 or 3 weeks, and in some ways, the whole year with what's transpired. Unfortunately, we were 6 wins out of the first 10, and then everything just went bang, and it feels like it hasn't stopped yet. So I think for most of us, we just want the noise to stop. I saw Andrew Welsh reach out to obviously Merritt at Port Melbourne this morning, prior reports, but actually part of me doesn't mind that. I think the noise needs to stop. I think people need to start talking to each other, calm the tension down, talk like adults, and work out a way to get past this and then move on. That's just my personal. I think people just need to, and in some ways the footy needs to focus on the best week of the year, which is the prelims. It's Collingwood and Collingwood and Brisbane and is that my right? Geelong Hawthorn, yeah.
Geelong Hawthorn, yeah. I
mean, Geelong Hawthorn, one of the best clashes you would ever want to see in rivalries go around in the last decade. So I hope people just actually enjoy. My whole thing this weekend is I'm just going to enjoy footy. I'm going to sit down, enjoy 4 fantastic teams. Let's hope the Hawks lose saying that, but 4 fantastic teams, watch some footy. I'm going to go to watch Salomon Roby at Icon Park on the weekend, watch his grand final at the Eastern Rangers versus Andrew Ham. Enjoy my footy, be amongst the community. And so that's it from us. Thank you, everyone. Massive thank you first to Fiona from Bomber Banter. Much appreciated. God bless your show. And yes, is there a timeline? Are you switching off any time, or are you going right through the trade period, or like how you want to do it?
I thought I'd be switched off this time, right at the moment, to be quite honest, and get set for a trade period. But alas, hasn't to be. No, I mean, I'm just going with the flow at the moment. I've had half a dozen plus messages of people kind of wanting a live soon to just dissect everything that's happened. So probably do that in the next maybe Sunday night, but we'll keep you all posted. But thank you so much for having me, Grant and Scott. It's an absolute pleasure, and here for you anytime. And you're welcome anytime on Bomber Banter. You both know that.
Beautiful.
No, it sounds great. And like all of us, we're just taking it one Jay Clark article at a time. So, so look,
we're up to 19. So
yes, and obviously to our two special friends, Jasper and Todd. Hey, thanks so much, guys, for putting on such an awesome podcast as a Flight Plan. Go check out the Flight Plan. Also on, is it iTunes? Are you Spotify?
Yeah, we're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Obviously, Bomber Banter. Check out YouTube channel. You just type in Bomber Banter, it will come up pretty quickly. She does some great live shows, by the way, so check it out on nights, and you can always get this.
Very fun.
You get the surprise live show if Jay Clark does his thing. But yes, for the Flight Plan guys, fantastic year with the show. I really appreciate it and appreciate your support as always, and we're always happy to come on with you guys and support your show anytime also.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you, Matt.
And that's us signing off. Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We like I said, we will be doing more pods as and when more things pop up, as they do, and like you said, in Jay Clark articles, or we need to have a chat. So thank you again to everybody, the listeners. Thank you to our guests tonight. And guys, pending any serious issues happening, we will talk to you guys very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
bye.